At dawn on June 22, 1941, along a border stretching nearly 3,000 kilometers, thousands of engines started at the same time. Not in one place, not in one country, but across forests, rivers, fields, and roads from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea. Within minutes, more than 3 million soldiers began moving east. This wasn't just an invasion. It was the moment the world's largest war became something even bigger. And what makes this moment so unsettling isn't only its size, it's that the people on the other side didn't fully believe it was happening. The force that crossed the border that morning was unlike anything assembled before. Around 3.3 million Axis troops, including German forces and their allies, supported by over 3,600 tanks, nearly 3,000 aircraft, more than 7,000 artillery pieces. Behind them stood hundreds of thousands of officers, planners, logisticians, engineers, and administrators, an entire military machine moving in synchronization. The plan assumed the war would be over before winter. That assumption shaped everything. On the Soviet side, the warnings had been coming for months. Foreign intelligence services, intercepted communications, even reports from Soviet agents all pointed to the same conclusion: an attack was coming. And yet many Soviet units were under orders not to provoke, not to mobilize fully, and in some cases, not even to return fire unless explicitly ordered. When the invasion began, several frontline commanders reportedly hesitated, not because they were unprepared, but because they weren't sure if what they were seeing was real. That hesitation would cost precious time. At the center of it all was Joseph Stalin. According to multiple historical accounts, when the first confirmed reports arrived, Stalin initially believed they were a provocation or a misunderstanding. Some sources suggest he suspected misinformation designed to drag the Soviet Union into a premature war. For hours, decisive orders were delayed. This wasn't panic, it was disbelief. The idea that such a massive operation could begin without a formal declaration challenged every expectation of how wars were supposed to start. Meanwhile, the invasion moved faster than anyone predicted. Entire Soviet formations were surrounded within days. Cities fell in rapid succession. Communication lines were cut so quickly that some units didn't know the war had begun until they were already isolated. German commanders reported advances of 30 to 50 kilometers per day, a pace that seemed to confirm everything the plan had promised. But behind the reports of success, cracks were already forming. The deeper the armies moved, the longer their supply lines became. Fuel trucks fell behind. Spare parts didn't arrive on time. Railways had to be rebuilt because the Soviet rail gauge was different. What looked like unstoppable momentum was actually running on borrowed time. And almost no one at the top wanted to admit it. One of the most astonishing facts about Barbarossa is this: Germany never fully prepared its military for a long war in the East. There were not enough winter uniforms, not enough replacement vehicles, not enough logistical depth for prolonged operations. Why? Because leadership believed the Soviet state would collapse before these things were needed. It didn't. As the invasion continued, something unexpected happened. Instead of disintegrating, the Soviet system adapted. Factories were dismantled and moved thousands of kilometers east. Entire industrial cities were rebuilt beyond the reach of advancing armies. Production resumed under conditions that defied expectations. At the same time, new armies were forming. Millions of soldiers were mobilized, trained, and sent forward, often faster than enemy planners believed possible. The numbers kept growing. Then came Moscow. By autumn 1941, the question was no longer whether the invasion was working, but where its true objective should be. Some commanders argued that taking the capital would end the war. Others believed securing economic regions mattered more. The result was hesitation, redirection, and lost time. And time was the one thing the operation could not afford to lose. And when weather conditions shifted, everything changed. Roads turned into deep mud, vehicles stalled, aircraft were grounded more often as temperatures dropped, equipment failed in ways that had never been tested at scale. The war slowed, but the resistance didn't. For the first time, the invasion lost its rhythm. By the end of 1941, it was clear that the assumptions behind Operation Barbarossa were no longer valid. The Soviet Union had not collapsed, the war had not ended, and the resources required to continue were far greater than anyone had planned. What began as a campaign designed to last weeks had become a struggle with no clear end. Operation Barbarossa didn't fail in a single moment. It failed because confidence replaced caution, because intelligence was interpreted to fit expectations, because planners believed scale alone guaranteed success. It marked the moment when World War II shifted from fast conquest to total, prolonged conflict. And once that shift happened, the outcome of the war began to change. Slowly at first, then permanently.